Wow, I'm at over 50 Pokemon now, 6 stages in. I can't wait until I catch them all.
Yes!
At least 150 or more to see. To be a Pokemon master is my destiny. Oh, Jesus, Murphy! That's Mew! It's Mew! I found the rarest Pokemon of all! And... this is very boring, to be honest. But I'm sure there'll be more to come.
See you!
Huh? The game's done already? Well, I'm not even half done the Pokédex yet, so I bet there's tons of secret stages or locations.
You made it!
But I've already got 58, so 58 plus 5 equals 63? That's it? My God! There must be some hidden ones, though. Where is Mewtwo? I've been through these 2-minute-long stages so many times that now I'm just taking random pictures of the environment. Like these crystals. Wait, what? Those crystals make Mewtwo? That nondescript lens flare silhouette? That's what they included for Mewtwo? I just spent half a damn hour going in a straight line throwing puffballs to get the inferior version, Mew, to stay friggin' still for half a second. And it's never up close to me. I'd rather take a picture of those constellations in the sky. There's some serious issues with this first 3D Pokemon outing, and I've got the photographic evidence to prove it. Join me as we investigate the Misses of Pokémon Snap. So, to make this miss as clear as I can, I'll start my analysis on this first level with my turbo engine activated, just so I can prove to you how lickety-split these stages are. Although you can approach them in varied ways, as the hit I delved into earlier explains, the fact is that the sights and sounds are going to get very repetitive very quickly. Repetitive very quickly. Yes, very quickly repetitive. Despite the locations and specific animations you encounter always varying, the Pokemon roster is 95% set, no matter how many times you go through the stages, with the only surprises being when you have the items to make it work, like that Snorlax you can awaken with a Pester Ball or the Pokéflute, and the Scyther you have to annoy out of the tall overgrowth in order to hear it shriek in rage. What's even worse is that there's some dead zones in each stage that have very little or even nothing for you to photograph. If the stages are already over in a flash, why would you put in parts where there's no Pokemon? Look at this! It's just boring. And these segments don't change despite your increased equipment later on. There, you see? That took, well, you can see the time right there. That's about the standard length for all 7 areas in Pokemon Snap. In fact, I honestly captured all of my footage for this episode during a 5-hour stint of just going through the game naturally, not using any save states or aids like that either. The only obstacles that bar a player's progress are insultingly easy puzzles that pretty much present the solution to you right away, so you know for next time. And of those, the only one that gave me pause was the Valley stage. You learn at the opening that Pester Balls can launch Squirtle out of the water. Transfer that knowledge to this situation, setting the Squirtle off, which then dumps the Mankey off of the hilltop where he proceeds to unlock the new area once you send him ass over Tea Kettle. The rest are just like, throw a ball by this obviously camouflaged Pokemon that's right by this switch. Another thing that can cut your fun short is the paltry 60 picture limit on your roll of film.
Now, this was before digital cameras, so I kinda get why the limit exists, but if you were an avid explorer and you were on a faraway journey, wouldn't you take more than a 60 roll thing of film with you, regardless of the topic that you were capturing?
Especially when going for the perfect shot, you can spend dozens of photos attempting to get one Pokemon. And when you run out, that's simply it. You're out of film and done. If you had at least 100, you could go for the big moments of each course, because there's a few standouts spread along the way without having to restart and do the boring parts over again. You can only choose one picture of each Pokemon to show the professor, so it's not like the unlimited pictures would help you that much. It wouldn't be much of a cheat. There's a bit of padding that exists to unlock the secret course, but it's either embarrassingly easy or vehemently frustrating, in that you have to discover 50 unique species of Pokemon to get that final regular stage open. And then, Oak tells you to go find all these obscure images that resemble Pokemon, which somehow then creates constellations of each of them in the sky, which is why the final stage is a rainbow road in outer space. And this rainbow stage? Let's talk about how boring and wasteful it is. Mew is the rare Pokemon you're trying to photograph, and it randomly shows up in this glowing psychic force field. First of all, they totally blew this surprise in the opening 30 seconds. This cinema scene with that awful Todd character sets the tone nicely. This Pokemon appears, and he fumbles around like a total noob, failing miserably to capture it. But we all know what it is. It's almost as bad as the cartoon.
You gamers all remember that "Who's that Pokemon?" segment of the show, right? Well, it was so bad, it insulted the intelligence of preschoolers. Oh, damn. Look at how fat Pikachu's original design was.
It's even worse than his model in Super Smash Bros. Check that out if you want to laugh at obese rodent designs. Anyway, back to Mew's stage. When you try and get its picture, it just glows with energy and you can't even get your photo scored. So that's lame already. But then you discover the only way to pierce through this omnipotent, psychic Pokemon barrier is by throwing a pester ball at it. Do it enough times, and the shield changes colors, and eventually you break Mew out of its shield temporarily, and it floats along, catching up with it while you take pictures of its ass and tail. The best shot I can get is a long-distance blur of it looking over its shoulder at the patheticness of this prepubescent kid fumbling around with his camera. It's a brutal score, only saved by the fact that this Pokemon is so rare, I immediately get thousands of bonus points. Yes, you can improve your score by relentlessly chucking a barrage of pester balls at it to make it spin around and look up at you, giving you that split second to do a picture-perfect pose, but that's as deep as this goes. All of your other tools and strategies you've experimented with in a plethora of different stages, resulting in many different results, mean absolutely nothing now. It's all like, chuck the pester balls until you can finally make it stay still for a second. That's not creative. You can take your 10,000 points. I'd rather have 10,000 less points and even 10 extra Pokemon to photograph. Which brings me to a new miss we'll examine shortly. When it comes to Mew though, that's it. It's the only Pokemon in this stage. A stage that has no terrain changes, no twists or even gentle turns whatsoever. Mew doesn't change its behavior, so there's no variety. It's honestly more fun to just ignore Mew and take in the colorful constellations of the Pokemon you wished were actually part of the game. Why doesn't Mewtwo's constellation explode with energy, manifesting the evil psychic Pokemon on this previously picturesque and peaceful rainbow to do battle with its nemesis Mew, like in the first Pokemon movie? You'd have more sweet voice acting and psychic explosions, faces being contorted in pain as the psychic cats subdue each other with energy projectiles. That would have made for some legendary photos, but nope, no homages or winks at any other rare legendaries. I mean, this would have been a perfect place to put a constellation of Ho-Oh in, like when Ash saw it at the start of the anime. It even fits into the rainbow theme, but nope, nothing. You can't even use your turbo booster to get it over with. It does nothing. Not that it's any longer than any of the other stages. You chase Mew in this fashion for a couple minutes, go through the gate, and that's the unimpressive, woefully boring end to what until then had been a very fun and engrossing Pokemon game.
It's done in like 5 hours, and the last moments you spend with it are some of the most frustrating and tedious in the entire game, and that in turn dissuades you from diving back into it. And that is not the sign of a good game.
As stated, the rubric Professor Oak uses for your pictures has several key requirements, and on the surface, it looks both fair and well structured. But man, sometimes you wonder if the old guy's losing his eyesight with how embarrassingly wrong his comments are. Look at this Bulbasaur photo, for example.
Oh yes, what a happy face!
Are you flippin' kidding me?
It's a close-up of Bulbasaur's ass. You can't even see its face. How did I get a good score on that? Other times, he correctly states that Pokemon hate to be photographed from behind. So what's the deal here? Sometimes the pose scores are really inconsistent, and it doesn't tell you why you got a higher score or what the difference in the Pokemon stance was. Is this pose really that much better than that one? I guess it is, because personal preference? Even when the descriptives match, sometimes the pose score is different. Look at Zubat. It doesn't even have a face or eyes. Its mouth is always open and it's constantly flying. It only has one pose. And yet somehow my pose score is 200 points better on this one than that one. Size, too, is sometimes baffling. I have this Snorlax photo I'm pretty proud of. Its body language and stretching action looks pretty dope to me, but apparently the size is not good, simply because I didn't get the entirety of this bloated bear in the shot.
How? How am I supposed to get the entire thing in there?
The frickin' thing is 15 feet tall and over 1,000 pounds! Yes, I know the Pokédex says it's 6'11". Well, if that's 6'11", this kid Todd is smaller than the smallest fantasy dwarf that was diagnosed with dwarfism. It doesn't even show its feet anyway. Instead, I take this wider angle shot, which to me isn't as good, but I have to try and appease the professor. I briefly mentioned the nitpickiness over how centered the photos need to be, but it crops up time and time again. There's photos you'd think would be awesome, but he just needs it that half an inch higher, lower, or to the side. And it really sucks that as soon as he deems it not centered, you don't get your score doubled, which means regardless of how amazing your size and how rare the pose was, you're going to end up with an underwhelming total. Why is this centering thing worth double as much as anything else? Especially when it's so finicky as to how centered it has to be. If we look back at the Zubat photo from before, I think it's awesome, but Oak? He sees that the entire body isn't there and decides it's not centered. I'd say that's pretty damn close as I could get for how close up it was. Would you have scored these two Zubat pictures the same way? I bet not. It's all a guessing game. Guess which of these is centered and which isn't. Here's Poliwag. Is it centered? Of course not. Are you serious? Wow, come on, do better. Take a look at Weepinbell. Centered or not? Duh, of course it is. It's perfect. Gaze at Cloyster and tell me whether you deem it centered. Weren't you paying attention? It's flawless. And finally, we have Mew, or Mew's ass. Is that ass in the center of it all? No, not even close. How could you even think otherwise? This is just out of control. If any single one of your aspects are not up to snuff, the rest of the score is cancelled. Here, I didn't get the Pokemon big enough in frame, so he says,
You were close. You were close.
and then doesn't even take a good look at it. Not a good pose.
You were close. You were close.
The poor 7-year-olds who played this game probably threw tantrums, appalled at what a horribly strict drill sergeant the professor becomes. Come on! You manually need to choose a single photo per Pokemon for Oak to grade after your run is done. And so you agonize over it, because it likely won't be the one that clearly looks the best. It'll be the one that you think might adhere to his cryptically inconsistent standards. And at times, it's just a crapshoot whether he'll like it or not. So if there's one you think looks awesome, you better save it to the album, because any picture that doesn't get a high score is lost forever. This Poliwag shot looks mint though. It's just about to leap into the river. I've got a clear shot of its belly spiral. It should be a high score.
Wait.
Of course, not perfectly centered. You know what picture did get a good score? It was this. A very bland photo of Poliwag leaping from the river. You can't see its spiral, even its face, but the professor's like, "Ooh, what a jump!" and gives me over 1,000 points for it.
Well done.
Sometimes he doesn't even acknowledge that you have a picture of a Pokemon if it's with another Pokemon. Here, I'm trying to get one of the rarest photos of all. Pikachu riding on top of an Articuno. That's like once in a blue moon, right? And it's a process to undertake. You have to miraculously throw apples at a Zubat to spawn those rare balloons we saw that allows Pikachu to descend, and then use your Pokeflute to make the Jinx dance that makes Articuno hatch to make it fly, and do it fast enough so that they're able to catch up to you before you exit the stage.
Oh, frick! Focus, damn you! No! Articuno, I don't want Articuno as the focus! I need Pikachu in there! Wow, how dumb does that sound? Get your legendary sparkles and icy effects out of the way, Articuno! I'm trying to get this ugly diseased rat in the frame! Ah, come on. There we go. Yeah. Ah, haha! Damn, that was difficult. What? No! No! That's bullcrap! I got Pikachu. The camera itself identified it, but it didn't count, apparently. Let's try again. Ah, snap, snap, snap. God! Snap, snap, that sound effect is so loud. That's Pikachu for sure. There he is. Oh, work it, you rat. Haha, yeah, I did it. Booyah! Woo! And now it's time to reap the rewards, because the rarity of this is just unreal.
You were close.
The game has told me that a pristine, rare, close-up photograph of Pikachu riding on top of an Articuno is worth less than a Magikarp. Let that sink in. Why is the bonus not higher? It's almost more worthwhile to tie some balloons to a rat. Why? Oh my god, it's unfair. That is the long and short of it. Here's what gets me. They obviously created this game as a way for kids to get obsessed with Pokemon and spend oodles of money on the franchise. So why are there so many no-shows?
The first generation was 151 Pokemon strong, and yet they only put in 63, plus a few cameo appearances with signs. And even if we include that, it's only 68 Pokemon. Still less than half of the roster. And there's some criminal omissions here too. Where's Mr. Mime? The most annoying Pokemon to be sure, but that's what makes him hilariously awesome. No Ekans or Arbok, which was quite popular as Jessie's Pokemon of choice from the anime. The only starting Pokemon whose full evolutionary line is featured is Charmander. Squirtle and Bulbasaur don't have any of their evolutions present throughout the entire game, and Blastoise in particular was among the most popular Pokemon of the first generation.
Blastoise!
There's tons of water in the stages too, so this is even more unbelievable. For all the H2O that there is, a lot of aquatic Pokemon are missing. No Tentacool or Tentacruel, no Horsey or Seadra. It's stunning. Instead, we get Magikarp, 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 and Magikarp.
No one likes Magikarp, but it's in every damn stage!
Instead of Blastoise's amazing water cannon popularity, we get ugly poison blobs like Grimer, which evolves into Muck by throwing a Pester Ball at it 3 times. This is one of the toughest Pokemon to find in the entire game, and it's just a poisonous blob! If you throw the Pester Ball at it once or twice, you don't get any reaction. So you think that's all there is. And it's all just to get an even bigger sack of crap that gives you the finger?
Look, it's flipping the bird to the world in general. Ban the game, alert the authorities, confiscate all copies of Pokemon Snap, is what some hypersensitive and overbearing adults might say.
I know, Muck's just doing what Muck does, but that's kind of funny. Anyway, there's no Aerodactyl, not any of the fossilized Pokemon, which I honestly expected to find in this cave area. It's perfect for ones like Kabutops and Omastar. You tease fans with Eevee, and then have none of its many times more amazing evolutions, like Flareon, Jolteon, or Vaporeon?
Oh, what do you know, Shep? They need the elemental stones to evolve. Yeah, that's true. And you know what?
So does Starmie! But all you needed to do for that to happen was flatter Staryu with promises of fame and glory by taking its picture. It likes that so much that it dips itself into a whirlpool and completely changes forms. Charmander and Charmeleon apparently both evolve by getting killed! And you drown Weepinbell to force it into a Victory Bell. Don't need no Leaf Stone.
So, that elemental stone nonsense can just get thrown out the window.
Fighting Pokemon completely get shafted. I'm not sure if there's one of them in the entire game. No Hitmonchan or Hitmonlee. Machop's entire evolution strain doesn't make an appearance. Even in the sequel, they relegate it to Machamp standing stranded in the middle of the ocean. Both Nidoran groups, male and female, have no representation. Not any of these 6 forms. Where's Onix? There's an entire rock cave and valley. It could have been shown here tearing down the cliffside, or in a fight with some Sandshrew or something. What do you think is the most egregious cut they made to Pokemon Snap's roster? Let me know in the comments. This miss kind of ties into the "it's too short" one. None of the courses are particularly complex or multi-layered. You basically drive your reject Star Trek vehicle in a straight line from point A to point B. They could have easily doubled the stage count without reusing too many environments, and that would have made room for the other half of the pocket monsters. Where's the forest stage? Where's the ice mountain stage? The flat grassland? Where's a simple trolling around the ocean? As you can tell, these are the kinds of ideas that were better utilized in the sequel, allowing for a deeper investigation of Pokemon habitats. It's not afraid to go into water or ocean locations 3, 4, even 5 times over in order to give players a better palette of Pokemon. And if the technological limitations were too much for the N64 to handle in storing all that extra information, they could have taken another route, which the sequel also has, giving a nighttime version of the same course. And it makes it completely different. Pokemon behave in totally unique ways. Some are absent entirely, or sleeping during the night, while naturally nocturnal ones surprise players with their presence. Even in the early days of Pokemon, there were species that could have really benefited from the nighttime setting. Put Rattatas or Raticates sneaking through the grass in the beach stage, with a hard-to-spot Tangela hiding in fear as an Ekans stalks Pokemon from within the grass. Spot a Cubone howling at a moonlit sky in sorrow in the mountains. It would give a much better emotional impact than this constellation. Have Clefable or Clefairy clustering around some gems in the cave, like they do at Mount Moon in the anime. You could even exchange some water Pokemon with other variants during a nighttime run of the course. Just put them in the same areas. The animations and voice differences would be enough. So many missed opportunities here. The Pokemon here are portrayed in such a thoughtful and fan-appeasing light. They're crude, early 3D polygonal models now, but it's remarkable how much they still pop on the screen, even playing this game today. The controls are smooth, it's intuitive, and gives you multiple reasons to go back. I recommend it on the Switch if you're interested. Just be prepared for the shock when you have the game beaten within a few hours, loathing at the fact that Mew's ass was apparently the big finale that the developers built up for the completionists who did all of the fetch quests and sign finding and repetition necessary to open this poor excuse for a final stage.
Thank you so much for joining me on the second half of this Pokemon journey. Whether photography is a hobby of yours or not, I hope you get out there and enjoy some sights and sounds wherever it is that makes you happy. Take care, gamers, and we will see you next time on Gaming Introspection.